shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
And welcome everybody to Pema TV.
Welcome to Friday, April 12th, 2013 already.
And I believe it's Jason is the one that's all disappointed because it's Friday the 12th.
Yeah, well, you know, that happens.
It does,
But,
mathematically.
bless his heart, Richard Booker, who was one of the original Jasons, passed away last week. So,
Yeah, man. Rest in peace.
Godspeed.
Rest in peace to him. Rest in peace to Mr. Jonathan Winters, a comedy icon. His sarcasm influenced more than one generation in America, and that's a proven fact.
Me.
Real quick, but because we're really excited, we're kind of chomping at the old bit to get to our guest tonight. But let me.
Should I pull a Slim Shady on you?
No, don't go on Eminem on me. That's scary.
I did it before. I'll do it again.
It is. All right, here we go. Don't forget, go to penevents.webs.com for your tickets and
Booths, investigator rooms, Tracy Ray's, gallery readings, all your information for the Lower Catskills Paracon. And yes, I'm going Slim Shady on you. May 3rd and 4th, we've got 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and we will be in Napanock, New York at the Shanley Hotel. Get your tickets now. The discount packages are only good for 1 more week, so if you want to save some money, grab them now.
But we're so excited about this. I mean, because we haven't talked to these guys, and it's been about a year.
It's been a little over a year.
Or a little over a year.
Because he was actually on our 1-year anniversary.
That's correct. So it's been a little more than a year. And that's our fault. We should have searched them out sooner, I think.
Well, some of you boys were playing.
Well, it's a competition thing.
We're playing. Let's see who can spend more time in the hospital.
Well,
so,
you know, there is that. But tonight we are joined by the premier couple of the paranormal. We are joined tonight by
the lovely Trisha and the man that doesn't listen to her, Tim.
Say, premier couple, you must be talking about the Kling brothers. What's going on here?
Oh, ow. And
How you guys doing?
Doing great. And just to say this, there's nothing wrong with that.
Man, I love you. Me and you are in the Stint Club for life.
That's what we had. Plavix all the way, brother.
I'm saying I live on that. And Metro, what's that stuff I take?
Metoprolol
or something. I don't know. Dopamine, something. Methadone.
Isn't that weird?
Methadone.
Isn't that?
Oh, that's for my other problem.
Hey Tim, isn't that the way it is though? When we were in school, they gave us dinosaur names that we couldn't pronounce, and when we get a certain age, they give us medicine that we can't pronounce, and they all look the same.
Yeah, acetaminophen. What the hell is that? Oh, aspirin. Okay.
Yeah, some Velasa aspirin.
Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't talked to you guys. How you been?
I'm doing surprisingly well.
And I'm not bad
no
either.
better from what I saw the pictures on Facebook.
Have you guys, now you guys are still in Florida, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're living in West Palm here, and it's been getting hot, bro.
Yeah, it hit 80 here today, and we're in East Texas, so.
Yeah, but it was 40 yesterday.
That's true, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's true, too.
We had some bizarre freak storm come through, so it was like 88, and then by afternoon it was down to 38.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That big storm that dumped all that snow on Denver, that's what, as it blew across the Midwest, we caught the very bottom tail end of it, and she's not kidding. You could literally look at a weather map, and where we were at was 75 or 80 degrees. On the other side of that storm front was 30.
Well, here it's kind of similar. It's like 87, and then we get a cold snap, and it's like 86, and then it's 87 again. So, yeah, it's pretty hot down here, man.
Yeah, and it's terrible with the humidity there, too, right?
Yeah. It was. It rained today for like 15 minutes. That's how it works in Florida. You get a quick cloud runs over and it rains. And I was standing in a parking lot watching the steam come up off of the asphalt today. I kid you not. So, yeah, it's real humid. It's like walking around with a wet towel stuck in your face all day.
Very true.
Yeah. Now you guys. Now Tim, I want to ask you this, and then I'm going to be quiet.
You better start by asking Trish. If you want a smart conversation,
no.
If you want something smart, you better ask her.
No.
Well, I'm trying to get all our dumb stuff out of the way first before the girls start conversing. I know. About a year and a half ago. I mean, you stepped away from a lot of stuff having to do with internet broadcasting and basically from the paranormal. And I was just curious if you could tell us why. Did you just get burnt out? Was it just too much talking about it all the time, or?
I don't think so. You talked about Stephen LaChance. He made a real profound statement on a DVD that we did for Warner Brothers. His boy Elliot came to him and said, you lived so long in the darkness and chasing demons and stuff, maybe it's time to look for angels now. That's it. I got married not too long ago. You should see my wife. She's pretty hot. And, you gotta grow up and move on after a while. And, this thing has plagued me and my family for 40 years, something like that, and the thing is, recognition is huge when it comes to this stuff. And I had to make a conscious choice not to give this stuff recognition, not to live in the darkness. I still struggle with that. This stuff happened to me for a reason, and it happened because I lived with a lot of dysfunction in my life. I had a lot of off-center stuff going on, out-of-balance kind of lifestyle, and I still struggle with trying to stay centered and moving forward, And now life is so much more exciting. Trish is doing incredible stuff with books and ministry work, and I'm getting involved in the church, and I'm active with the Coast Guard Auxiliary now, and I do radio stuff and working, and it's just coming back to a place of center and being normal. It's not that I don't. Here's the thing. There are a lot of people who get involved in the paranormal and they get on television shows and they strive to be famous and make a name for themselves in the paranormal. And that's fine. But the real people who are doing so much incredible work and doing counseling with families most people don't even know that they exist. They work quietly behind the scenes. People like Carmen Reed, people like Stephen LaChance. The names could go on and on.
Bill Bean.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are just quietly working in the background, and they're working with families who are scared to live in their houses. Roy and Denise is a perfect example of that. They're in the chat room, I believe, right now. They sacrifice so much and give so much of themselves to be able to do this. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. Yet you don't get to hear of those people. And Trish and I still are involved in this. We still have conversations daily, almost it seems like daily, with people who, threatening to kill themselves, commit suicide because they're in a dark place. Not necessarily always because of paranormal stuff, but it's because they've put themselves in a corner and they're so out of balance. We feel that we have developed a pretty good system of empowerment and of putting little tools back into the toolkit for people to use. Simple reminders of you just got to remember to laugh once in a while. You got to remember to communicate with family. Journaling is a huge part of it. All of these little positive affirmations and reinforcements in life that when you get to a dark place, you kind of forget those things. So that's what jazzes me up now. I spent a long time giving recognition to people with a radio show, and that was all good, but it was for the sake of entertainment. Now I'm really trying to focus and concentrate on getting down into the meat of the subject, and I'm really excited about the fact that Trish is stepping up and doing some amazing things in that field. So there's the dumb answer. Now you can ask Trish what she's doing.
That was not a dumb answer. They wanted to know why you had stepped back. That was a perfect answer.
Okay. It was a long one.
Well, Tricia, what are you doing that's intelligent? Seeing them being done.
Yeah.
I married Tim. Yeah. No. Now what he's talking about is I've been heading toward a certification called Certified Spiritual Educator for a little bit now, and had the opportunity recently to step up in our church. I've been a youth director for a while, and we were without our minister, and I stepped up to do a Sunday service, and really,
can you believe that?
Kind of felt good about it. So I think I'm going to just keep going through to ministry, which is going to take a little while, but I'm on the right track, and I have a children's book being published soon that right now is having illustrator work on it. So those things are very exciting to me.
We're going to have to call you Holy Mother now or something. That'd be cool. Roy and Denise were actually there when you did your...
Yes, they were, yeah.
You did
and
there.
I finally got in the chat here, so I see that Roy and Denise...
Hi, Roy. Hi, Denise.
And Tina and Matt are there.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Get that bum out of there. That guy. Matt and Tina used to work with us on the radio show. They were our other dynamic duo. They kind of played the role... It's always good to have a balance there, and Matt played the voice of logic and reasoning there. He was kind of our skeptic guy.
Tim Yancy promised me there would be beer and nachos here.
Well,
I love it.
And I remember
I got you in here. That's how I got him to do the show.
For close to a year or more, once Kim and I were introduced to you guys, I used to look forward to that on a Saturday afternoon. I'd go out and cook barbecue. By the time I got the barbecue done, hell, it was time for Encounters Live, and we go sit back and watch Encounters Live. We'd laugh and giggle,
And we'd wait to see who was going to buy the next hearse.
Yeah, or where his next hearse was coming from. I remember that.
I was really proud of that show. We started that years and years ago, oh my gosh. I first started doing radio in 1994, somewhere around in there, and there was two guys on the internet that were doing it before me. One was a guy in Tampa that had a show about UFOs, and I think Jeff Rentz was probably just starting to get up and running. Of course, there was Art Bell on terrestrial radio, but we did shortwave. We did, any way that we could get out there. I worked with a guy named Lou Gentili a few years later, and we did shortwave, and we worked for the International Broadcasting Corporation, and, we would put a radio show out. We'd hook jumper cables to a power line if we could get a radio show out, That led to, in this market down here in South Florida, working with Clear Channel stations down here, AM stations, WBZT and some of them, and we were the opening show for Art Bell and George Norrie in Coast to Coast AM. That eventually turned into a homegrown show. Internet became really huge, and everybody was doing these radio shows, and we were one of the first ones to do a live video cast out of the radio station. So I'm real proud of our track record when it comes to doing radio. I've enjoyed it all my life, and I've been blessed to have Trish involved in it, and Matt and Tina and Jason Gowan. We've had cast members from Ghost Hunters on. We had Rosemary Ellen Guiley as a regular on our show. And the guests that we had, the people that stepped up and supported us as a radio show, some of the names were I've interviewed Jason Hawes and, Brian Harnois and all the Ghost Hunter gang and the sci-fi people and the Booth brothers and Travis Walton and professors and academic scholars. And I have no way of expressing the amount of pride that I had for doing that radio show.
Oh, we completely understand. We've actually met most of the list you just mentioned at events we've covered.
Sure.
Yeah, and the other thing too is it broadens your perspective a lot. I mean, that's been my take from what we've done in the last. Because believe it or not, Tim, we just celebrated our 2nd year anniversary of being on the air with our own network here.
But it's
wow.
But we just celebrated our 3rd with this particular show.
This particular show just had its
I remember the anniversary show that we did, and you guys are, there's shows out there that just strive to be entertaining. There's some of them that really shouldn't be doing a show.
Yeah.
I get critical sometimes of people's content. In this field, I'm a big supporter, and Trish and I are, of let's get information out, let's look at data, let's do those types of things. And entertainment has its place. We've been very critical of some of the television shows and things that are out there. But I've always enjoyed your show for the content. It's a class act, and, there's some, I think last year they said there were 20,000 some new podcasts and radio programs on the internet that started up. That's huge.
Yeah, well, like you said, doing one live show is bad enough. We can now boast here at PEN we have 14 live shows during the week.
That's a lot of work. Well, the amount of work it takes then to do a radio show.
Yeah.
One of the big deciding factors was just the amount of work it takes. It's a full-time job just trying to get guests on a show, much less having a production meeting, talking about what the content's going to be, writing up a list, trying to go out and garner support for it in the form of commercials. That's how we did at Clear Channel. The object was Trish and I paid out of pocket over $100 an hour to put on that show. Our costs out of pocket to do that Encounters radio show with Clear Channel cost us over $10,000 a year. Now, the way you make your money back is selling advertising. You go out and you get sponsors, and you give them sell a commercial slot on your show, and you make money back. Well, we were so busy, we didn't have time to do that, and if you go back and listen to those old archives, everything that we did was public service announcements, charity stuff and government sponsored, we'll pay your telephone bill and all of that kind of stuff.
We advertised a lot for Dave Schrader, which I always thought was funny.
Yeah. And now he's doing Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
You believe that?
He's great at that, though. He is a very, very, very good radio show person.
Sure.
But that's the thing too, is it's like you mentioned, you guys did it for 10+ years, well over a decade. Kim and I we're pushing 4.
Yeah.
You as long as you have the content and the fire, That's all. That's the deciding factor. You know, a lot of people.
Basically, though, it's the fire because, like you said,
Yeah.
just getting guests
Is a full-time job.
and trying to keep from repeating too often,
Right.
and you know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing too is you were correct. A lot of people look at it. Oh well, it's just a podcast. Well, it's more than that.
Right.
You know, a lot of what's out there is kind of like you said. You can get very critical of it.
Sure.
Paranormal
Sure.
oatmeal.
Yeah,
You
it is.
have to find your flavor out there. Roy and Denise do a show on Monday nights, I believe, called Paratrek TV, and it's very equipment oriented. It's into the electrical and mechanical type of aspects because that's something that they're big on. They go out and do massive investigations at public and private locations that are, huge, mental hospitals, asylums, things like that. And they whip out the equipment, man, and so that's kind of what they're tailored for. Other shows get into the metaphysical aspects. Some shows get into this and that. What probably a big catalyst for us was also the fact that I didn't want to be entertainment anymore. I started to meet, when you go out to the conferences and conventions, families who would say, I've been waiting for 3 months for this convention to meet you because my kid is having a problem and she's scared to stay in her room at night, and just wanting to go meet us and say, can you help us? That was huge. That was a huge responsibility and a huge commitment. And I got to a place where, okay, now we got to start educating and talking serious about this stuff. I didn't want to be entertainment anymore. I didn't want to sell somebody's book that, about 10 minutes into an interview, you can start to tell if somebody's bat poop crazy or not, or whether there's some meat behind the subject matter that you're talking about. And we found more and more that, some of these people were just absolutely insane.
Yeah. And you can say it. You can say it if you want to.
Okay, I'll say it if I want to. Very good. We started to have interviews that when you started asking them the tough questions and you held their feet to the fire, they couldn't produce. I mean, it was good for a television show. They could run around and go, is there someone in this room making noise? But they couldn't explain what happened. Now what? How do we move forward with this? How do we help families other than pointing an EMF detector at them and telling them their house is haunted, that kind of thing. So that really bothered me, and we took it indoors. We canceled our contract with Clear Channel. We brought it home and did a homegrown show here where we really tried to talk about the data and tried to look at the phenomenon for what it was and start to try to insert some tools into some investigators' tool belts. We found after doing this for months that we had about 12 regular listeners. People weren't interested in that. They wanted a scary story. They wanted to be entertained. But when it came down to the meat and bones of the subject, there was very few investigators who really wanted to hear decades of research, what that data produced. Because it wasn't just me saying this. It was every haunted survivor that's done anything in the past 20 years that's had a voice in the paranormal field. Carmen Reed, George Lutz, the Lutz family who experienced the Amityville haunting. It was researchers like bioengineers in the field like Barry Taff. It was data that was coming from people like Stephen LaChance and other haunted survivors, Carmen Reed, those kind of people. We began to see commonalities in the hauntings that were occurring to these people. We began to see commonalities. We began to see catalysts for what was going on. And we all started to also find commonalities in how to alleviate these things. So we began to share that with people who were coming to us in these conventions. And when we put it out there, we found that it wasn't received real well. People wanted, they wanted to get the autograph from the plumbers, and they wanted to meet the famous people that were on TV, but they didn't want to hear, the data part of it. So we found that kind of fascinating and said, okay, we've made our ripple in the pond, and it's time to move on and live life. Yep.
Well, we found that a lot of the infotainment, it started out with good intentions, but now it's become so much give them the drama, give them the horror that it.
Yeah.
I find myself screaming at the TV. I turn them on to watch a particular location, and I'm throwing stuff at the TV. Are you out of your mind?
Well,
What do you? I mean, you've got one show that's got a demon every week.
Sure.
Then you've got,
I'm looking at you two, and I hear the frustration. We're watching you guys on the stream here, and watching you kind of look at each other with frustration, and that's what happened to us. I sat at a conference and watched a line down the hall, around the door, out the door, through the parking lot, and everybody was paying $20 an hour or $20 for an 8x10 autograph of some people that are on Sci-Fi. But in the meantime, Professor Hans Holzer's daughter, Alexandra Holzer, is giving a spirited talk on energies and her thoughts on this. There's 3 people in there. Right. Dave Schrader was doing a program about working with kids. He and Patrick Burns were involved in a book about working with kids who are involved in violent hauntings. There was nobody in his lecture, you know.
Well,
Heck,
that's because they didn't dye their hair and put on a fake tan.
Well, it's the thing, you know, and it's the trend right now. So I think that for us, we said what we had to say. We had our opportunity to put it out there, and we threw the pebble in the pond. Now it's up to other people as far as what our stuff. It's out there. It's archived, and people can take it and discuss it with their groups, with their other investigators, and do what they want with it. And if the field is still wrapped up in this fascination with Zach Baggins or whatever his name is, and if that's the current template for how to be an investigator, I got other things to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure Trish agrees with me. You don't go into a place, say, throw a rock at me, and then scream when they do.
Yeah, that drives me crazy, actually. I'm always fond of saying I wouldn't treat spirit any differently than I would treat anybody else, whether I was in their house or inviting them into mine. I don't walk into a grocery store and ask people to scratch me or throw things at me, so I certainly wouldn't do it with something I can't see.
Well, and the whole thing
exactly.
the whole thing too being is it dumbs you down. When they say it's only the 3 of us here and we're locked in, and I'm not naming a specific show or anything,
right,
but it's just the 3 of us and we're locked in, and you see all 3 of them on camera, guess what? There's another person in there.
And when they're letting other people in, you're really not locked in.
Yeah, and it's like ghosty boo-boo.
Yeah. Well, I think that people are finally starting to call BS on those shows, They're starting to see, and I'll say it, they're starting to see that Jason and Grant are faking evidence on the Ghost Hunter show. And here's the thing. If I'm lying, I invite you to sue me. We'll see if that happens. But, people are blatantly faking evidence, and they're starting to get caught at it. They're getting the fact that the old jacket tug with the string in the collar, they're looking at that, and they're seeing that when the chair slid across the room in the top of the attic there, they saw the string going around and the light move and this and that. So people are starting to find out that a lot of this stuff is faked. A lot of it is scripted. Some of the shows I have to wonder about. I really had to wonder about what was going on with Ryan Buell in Paranormal State because I've worked with the guy. I know him. And these shows are scripted, but I wonder. I have to wonder about shows like John Zaffis's because I know him really well, and I think that I just don't know what's going on with those shows. So if there's doubt, what was it that OJ's lawyer said? If you have doubt, you got to throw it out, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I can't trust what I'm seeing on those shows as far as evidence. And here's the thing: bottom line, investigators hear what I'm telling you. For 200 years, we've been taking pictures of ghosts. For the last, as long as electricity's been invented, we've been recording all this stuff. And where has it gotten us? No place. That's the truth of the matter. You might get a cool ghost photograph, and that's your thing. If that's, a lot of people get into it just to find that evidence. But the truth is that I don't care if you got a picture of Elvis standing on the stairway and it's in perfect, crisp form. Somebody's going to say it's BS.
Oh, absolutely.
So what can I do as an investigator, as somebody who's experienced this stuff? I know that as a kid I was absolutely terrified. I remember the fear on my mom's face when she would talk about being attacked. I know the hell that my brother went through all of his life, and he's still affected by this stuff. I know what it did to us as a family, to degrade us, to belittle us, to humiliate us, and I know that there's families that live that way today. If there is a role for me in this thing that we call the paranormal community, it's working with families who are also experiencing that, because I think I have a way to resolve those issues, at least a template that I can offer them, a small kernel of information that may be of help. And that's my place with it these days, and that's what we enjoy doing.
Well, plus the orb toes need a damn good roadie, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
You had mentioned John Zaffis, and I personally have not had a chance to meet him yet, but he's one of them I like to yell at on TV.
Yeah.
He'll go in and he's like, okay, and they'll hand him some kind of antique piece of jewelry, and I'm like, don't do it! He's gonna steal your old crap! Stop!
Those are the things that I wonder about. I know John Zaffis. I've known him, oh my God, 20 years, something like that, over that long. And him and I know how he came to prominence. I know, his story. And he is someone who struggled for a long time to find those answers. He was brought in by Ed and Lorraine Warren. He's their nephew, know, and was kind of being mentored by Ed and Lorraine to become the next generation of investigators there. And, God rest his soul, Ed is gone now, and John has really stepped into his shoes. And I've seen him work with individuals who are frightened, and he does an amazing job. One of the things you have to remember about television shows is that when you sign on, it doesn't matter if you're an investigator, it doesn't matter if you have a master's degree, it doesn't matter if you're a college professor, you become nothing more than talent for a producer. And that's what your role is. And if he says, stand on your mark and say this line, that's your job. And that's what you're supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case for John Zaffis, but I've spoke with entire cast of television shows who have told me that here's the deal. You get there and you think you're going to have one idea of what the show's going to be about, and you're going to be the best investigator and have the best show in the world. But if that producer says, stand on that mark right there and say this line, whether you want to say it or not, that's your job. And guess what? If you don't say it, if you object to the way that the show is being run and you suddenly don't have or you suddenly have issues with the show, well, written into your contract is a little clause that says if you don't say that line, you can pay the $10,000 an hour production cost for the cost of this television show, since you're holding up the program. You can pay everybody's salary while you sit there and have your temper tantrum. In the meantime, get on your mark, shut up, and say the line. And that's how these shows work for a lot of people. And that's why you see people who disappear out of these shows who suddenly have attitudes, and they're under contract, not to say nothing bad about the television show, but while they can't say that, you know that there's a disgruntled person there who has a big problem with the show that he was on. Well, you know the names as much as I do.
Well, Roy put it in the chat.
Okay. There was a show out there, Extreme Paranormal, that one of our guys was on, Jason Gallen, and he'll tell you point blank, he doesn't care.
He had a horrible time with that. He spent a lot of time on the phone with Tim during the production of that show saying, I got to get out of here, but I can't. You know, they lock you in, and you're there, and you got to do what you got to do. And he was really torn up about that. The one episode where they did the bloodletting thing, that was this big scandalous, everybody was up in arms about it. That was none of their ideas. None of them wanted to do it. They were all very much against it. And the producer said, okay, so who's going to pay the $10,000?
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Well,
Think about Brian Harnois. Donna LaCroix comes to mind. Yeah. People who were really enthusiastic about these shows. Our friend Shannon Sylvia, some of them. You know, they come out and they got a real bitter taste in their mouth about these television shows. They can't talk about it publicly, but privately they'll tell you the shenanigans that was going on behind the scenes. So my wish, and I guess the wish for this rant that we got off on, God knows how, but, you know, is that if I have a wish for the paranormal community, it's that somehow we don't look at these people that are on these television shows as the rock stars of the paranormal community. I don't want people thinking that what I do is, you know, when they see Zach Baggins on TV, that's what I do. Right. He's not the template. He doesn't get to be the role model for the paranormal community, God forbid. Right. I prefer to think that people like nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman in the field of UFOs, let's hold him up as a model and say, this is what we want our community to be represented by. Barry Taff, who has a degree in parapsychology and bioengineering. You will recall the name Grover Krantz, who is a professor of anthropology and who passed away, but he was huge in the field of Bigfoot and cryptozoology. Jeff Meldrum. You know, there's a million names that we can get into. Michio Kaku. What was the other guy's name that I'm trying to think of? Carl Sagan was huge on alien stuff. These are the guys that I think we need to represent and hold up and say, these are the people that we want to represent us in the paranormal community. And if you go to them, they will provide you the templates. And, you know, I think that if you went to Barry Taff, he would instantly tell you, well, here's a sound theory for scientific research, and here's the information that we need. Now take that into the community and work with it, rather than watching Jason and Grant hold an EMF detector up in the and try to get somebody, hit them in the head with a pine cone or whatever the heck it is on their show, you know?
Well, I just wanted to warn, Roy just mentioned in the chat room that he tries to imitate Zach as much as he can. That's a lot of hair gel, Roy. I just want to warn you right now. A lot of hair gel.
Well, we actually had met Paranormal State, the new class, before they had actually aired.
And what happened to the old one?
Well, you know, part of the issue is exactly what you said. It was about integrity.
It was definitely integrity. I mean, they brought John Tinney in as a mentor, and the second episode they said, "Tell the family there's a demon." John got in his car and drove off.
Yeah, but see, they underestimated. See, here's the thing: is the production company underestimated when they recruited Hoosier State Paranormal. They didn't do a whole lot of background search, I don't think. Because each one of the members of that team was already much like yourself, Tim. You'll appreciate this. All those kids were either paramedics, policemen, or in some sort of pre-med
and a fireman.
So they all had professional backgrounds in this to begin. A professional background. They didn't need the show to make it to be successful.
Right.
And when they were asked to sacrifice their integrity, they didn't do it. And God bless them, you know, they struggled through all that and they walked away from it. And you have to applaud them for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing. I wonder what a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, or a school counselor would think about the fact that you just walked into a family's house and said, there's a demon that lives in here. Let's conjure up an image of something that is such a huge entity or a deity that now the family's hopeless to try to fight it or to try to come back to a place of center. Oh my God, it's a demon. It's got horns and a tail and a pitchfork, and it's a higher being in the universe. I'm hopeless to fight that, you know. But if you explain to a family, here's the situation. You have negative energy in your home. You have something that feeds off of negative energy. It's like a parasite, and you can come back to a place of center and alleviate the problem, because this parasite that's in your home, the thing that's banging on the walls, the reason it does that is to try to scare you, to create negative energy to feed off of, because that's what it thrives on. So if you eliminate the negative energy in your home, you can alleviate the haunting and the frightening things that are happening in your home. So let's go at it from a place of journaling. Every day I want you to write something down in this journal, but you don't get to talk about the bad stuff. Instead, today you have to write something in the journal that's positive, something that you did. We do that with families, and sometimes it takes them days, and they sit there and they can't write an entry. And then finally, after a few days, they might write, I looked in the mirror today and I had pretty eyes. Or, today I talked with my mom over the phone. Or, today I left the house for the first time in 6 months. I've had families tell us that. Let's introduce the thought of laughter again, of humor. Watch a funny movie on TV. Start to put some positive vibe back into not only your spirit, but into the home's energy as well. Let's do a house blessing, but let's not do it a scary Catholic, Domino, Nabisco, shredded wheat, and walk around, and, Let's invite the friends over. Let's make it a joyous celebration. Let's open the windows in the house and have a joyous celebration of blessing the house. These are the types of things that introduce positive energy into a home. And here's the deal, gang. Every haunted survivor, every great movie that you've watched in the past 10 years, the ones that are based on true hauntings, like Carmen Reed, The Haunting in Connecticut, like John Bell, we can go back to the Bell Witch haunting. We can look at George Lutz and Danny Lutz and the Lutz family from the Amityville Horror. And there's a million movies out there. Every one of those people agree with me in the fact that if you can reintroduce positive energy into the home and displace the negative energy that is there, a haunting will stop just like that. So don't believe me. I mean, we've proven it. There's a track record of it. The data shows it. Roy and Denise is in the chat room. They'll tell you. It's what works. You displace negative energy, and guess what? Evil doesn't get the concept of things like humor and laughter and family. When you communicate with family, you're expressing love for one another, rather than the arguing and the carrying on that festers in a home that has a violent haunting. So these are some keys that we have discovered. We find that they work. The haunted survivor community, any of us, Stephen LaChance, all of us, will tell you that that's what happened to alleviate the problems that we were having. And here's the good part. I didn't run in your house. I didn't steal your heirlooms and put them in my museum. I didn't take anything from you other than negative energy. I didn't charge you anything for it. And guess what? Even if I'm wrong, you haven't hurt anybody. The only thing that you've done is input positive energy, and whether it's a real haunting or it's a psychological issue, you've put all the things in place to solve both. And now, your role as an investigator, once you've started that phenomenon or you started that template, now you can hand it off. If there's a drug problem in the home, you get them to a counselor. If there's a kid who is experiencing a ghost in their room, you introduce them to a counselor at school. It's not your job to fix the problem. It's your job as an investigator to hook up these people with the professionals that can get the job done. So whatever it is in that home that's creating that dark energy, that dysfunction, that's putting that family off center, you introduce them to the things and the recipes and the tools that they need to get back to a place of center, and you're going to miraculously find that whatever that haunting was is no longer. So there's my rant for the day.
So did you have Trisha put all these on CDs?
I'm sorry?
No. Did you have Trisha put all these ideas on CDs? I'm going back to the Thunder and the Balloon CD.
Oh, the Thunder and the Balloon. Yeah, that's always been a fun one.
And Tim, I have to say this.
Wait. I'm just...
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Some of us pay attention to what Tricia does outside the paranormal. Thank you very much. I'm just saying, some of these ideas may not be bad to put on a DVD for people to be able to go back to.
Yeah, I think that's something that's probably going to be coming as the time goes down the road here.
Here's the thing. We've tried to do that. I have hired film crews.
Oh, yeah, that was fun at the last time.
But here's the thing that we always find. There's always whenever you try to put this out there, there's always retribution. There's something that happens. When Trish and I go to speak at conventions, and she'll tell you, when we go out and do this work, it pisses stuff off. And we see a marked increase in stuff that happens in our home. We see a real battle. For us, it's a real chore to get to conferences, and it's a real hassle for us to get to talk just to people, that are experiencing problems. And I've hired film crews, and we've had DVDs tried to be made of this stuff, and for one reason or another, we just can't get it done. And I don't know what it is, but we just have the damnedest luck with that.
Well, I'm Tim. Just so you know, I'm going to nominate you for a few paranormal awards this year. Is that okay?
Oh, gee, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to thank the Academy for this BS award. I don't know what it is about people that just need to pat themselves on the back, but the real satisfaction in this work is watching a little kid smile for the first time in weeks, of watching a family who's exhausted because you better be awake and you better be paying attention to what's going on in your house at night, to see them be able to sleep again, to be able to hug a guy who, and this just happened to us a few weeks ago. Roy and Denise are familiar with this. A guy who sent me a suicide letter about how Satan is just mocking him to do it, pull the trigger, to be able to bring that guy to church and hug him, and now he's positive for the first time about life again. I've had guys, Trish and I are blessed to have a voice in this community and to be able to tell our story, but there's so many people out there, and I don't mean to sound melodramatic. This is the truth of what it is. I've had guys come to me who, when they couldn't take the voices anymore and they couldn't stand the banging and the pounding on the walls and the stuff of this phenomenon, they went in the kitchen, this guy grabbed a knife, he started stabbing himself in the chest. When he couldn't do that anymore, he slashed his throat and he sliced his wrists, and he laid down in the floor to die, because that's what he felt was the right answer to stop what was happening to him. His wife found him. She got him to the hospital, and for the rest of his life, he's disfigured. For the rest of his life, he walks with the aid of canes and braces, but he's alive, and he'll tell you that story, and we interviewed him on our show. Those people don't get to have a voice. The ones that the evil has won, I guess is the way to put that. So this is serious for me, and when we have a chance to talk about it, we take it serious and we treat it serious, and that's why I get really pissed when somebody has the audacity to disrespect what my family has gone through and what other families have gone through by mocking it on a television show, of making it a joke for other people. You don't get to do that in my community as far as I'm concerned. So if anybody doesn't really understand why we're so hard on some of these shows and some of the personalities that are out there, that's why. And what really sucks is that I usually will say a statement like this, and then I'll meet all these people at a convention, so I really got to do some sucking up after that. I'm like, oh, hi, Grant. How you doing?
But you see, but
it's serious for us because I experience that stuff, and I have worked with kids who come up to a table that we're at, and they look at you and they say, do the bad people ever go away? And when you do a little investigating, we had a case where a little 4 or 5 year old girl come up and said that there's a dark man, a bad man that comes in her room at night and sniffs her clothing and says evil, bad things to her. That started a 2-week investigation where we called in psychologists, ministers, counselors, mediums, you name it. And we brought in the whole gamut into that person's house. And, thank God we reached a resolution with that case. But that stuff goes on every day in some people's lives. So guess what? You don't get to go on television and go, if there's a ghost in here, punch me in the face, or whatever the heck it does. To me, that's disrespecting spirit. And homie, don't play that.
Right.
I just sit there and watch it, hoping that, spirit will go, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Be careful what you ask for.
It would be pretty phenomenal. But, so I guess to sum up, you kind of asked us why we stopped doing that show. And I really felt a part of all of that. I didn't want to be entertainment anymore. I didn't want to degrade what was happening to people's lives out there, because this stuff's scary. Can you imagine how profound it is to hear banging coming from the walls of your home? It's one thing to see it in a movie or talk about it, but think about it for a second. What would you do if suddenly in the middle of the night you started hearing banging, or something raked across your chest or across your stomach, or you heard voices in your house? Imagine the terror that causes and how it blurs the lines of reality. You begin to question what's real. You question your thinking and what's happening in your home. That's the goal. That's the agenda of this thing that we call evil. And so as a community, what are we going to do? What end of this thing are we going to support? Are we going to step up and try to look at the data and see what we can find out, or are we going to play parlor tricks on television? Choice is yours.
Well, and the other thing too, Tim, is, and I want you two to think about this. Think of the thousands of people that you two have influenced. And yes, you walked, got knee deep in the slime pit, so to speak, of the entertainment industry. But just think of the thousands of people that you've not either motivated to become a better investigator, motivated to help people, have actually helped, or are motivating them to help other people. You two, that's why I said what I said at the beginning of the show. You two are the premier couple of the paranormal. I mean, you guys are.
I would agree with that about Trish. I don't know about me. I'm
you know what I mean.
Weight,
You know what I mean. When people want an answer, they'll go ask anybody. When people want the right answer, they come and ask the right people.
My prayer for the community, and as we move forward here, and I think we're starting to see it, is a real shift in the way that people think about this stuff. And here's the thing, I'm not knocking EMF, I'm not knocking investigations or the EVPs, any of that stuff. It's valid. The thing is, and this is what I ask for when people come to me with a case, I say, show me your evidence, let me see what you got. That's an important part of it. The thing is, you have to take that into... You can't let the investigation in there. We don't go, okay, your house is haunted, see you next week, Sunday at 8 p.m. or whatever. Right. You have to work with a family, and I have families that I've worked with for years. You don't get to just stay there a week. This is stuff that takes years and years of work to get people back, and I wish I could read you some of the letters of people who just go, oh my God, thank you. When you first started talking to us about this stuff, I thought you were completely nuts, but it worked. I don't know how, but it worked. And now I've got a baby, and I've got a husband, and a great life, and, that's the reward. So if you want a trophy, go get it. I'll take that any day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I gave you my opinion on the whole trophy thing. Popularity contest, and we're not in that clique.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the amazing part is, you and I have been in this business for a while. We remember the names of those great people of the past. Let's go way back. Harry Price, some of those guys. Dr. Maurice Gross over in London. Susan Blackmore, who has a degree in memetics and works at university. Some of those great names. Have you seen any of them nominated at all?
No.
Could
Do you get any of the people who I consider experts in this field? People always say, nah, there's no experts in this field. I disagree. And some of those names that we've talked about tonight, those are people who know how to do investigations. They understand scientific theory. They develop criteria. They write papers in medical journals and stuff like that. I think I'll listen to them. They would qualify as an expert in a court of law.
As opposed to the plumber.
We were discussing one time, there was a small group of us discussing making a paranormal hall of fame.
Yeah, but we're going to take Goober from www.mypodcast.com, and we're going to give him a paranormal award for being best investigator of the year. But a guy like Barry Taff, he doesn't even get invited to conventions anymore. We really got to shift our way of thinking in this field, and that's my prayer.
Some people were pulling this person's name and that person's name, and my immediate thought went to, okay, if we're going to pick someone alive who is still alive and justly deserves it, you start with Lorraine Warren and work your way down.
They did a paranormal award some years ago. Okay, so the IPPA, PPA,
we know where that came from.
There's some more of that batshit crazy stuff right there.
Yeah. Now, I got nominated for Best Radio Show. Okay, guess who won?
CC the Huntress?
No, but the show that won was Beyond Reality Radio with Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson. The problem is the show stopped. They stopped doing the show 3 years before. Okay? So 3 years before the Entertainment Awards, or at least a minimum of a year, I'm not sure. They didn't even do the radio show anymore. They got Best Paranormal Radio Award. Just because of the name and who they are. So the thing is, if you do an award show and you get Jason and Grant as your award winner, that gets you publicity. It doesn't do a damn thing for them, but it helps you and gets your name out there in the paranormal. So let's think about these award shows and the real reason for why they're there.
It wasn't going to be an award show. There was not going to be any great, large publicity. We were just going to put these little plaques in this one particular area of people who we thought actually deserved some recognition.
Are you telling me that was you?
Maybe.
No way. Okay, well, I should have got that damn award.
Well,
not for the IPAA. No.
I was not the IPAA.
No. That's
No.
Okay, I'm making sure because whoever did it, I just got a kick out of the fact that they obviously were padding their awards things with the big names in show business. They weren't giving awards out to anybody that was worth a damn. They were giving them to shows that didn't even exist anymore so that they could elevate their status in the paranormal community.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I just got to call a spade. When you do that stuff, you really have to think about what's going on out there.
That was Laura Kimberly.
Okay. Whoever.
It wasn't me, no. Ours never went anywhere. And it wasn't like we were going to make some big, whole network and da-da-da. Because the way I see it, that's a popularity contest. We have these three people, and they're up for nomination. Who nominated them?
Yeah. Did
the actual people in the field nominate them, or did you nominate them because you wanted to meet them? And who voted on them? How many hundreds of paranormal people actually got that chance to vote? None of them.
And Tim, I understand your frustration. And here's where everybody should become really frustrated with the situation, okay, is we're supposed to be investigators. If you're not willing to ask questions about something, excuse my language, but something as asinine as an award ceremony, because life isn't like kindergarten. Not everybody gets a trophy.
Right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's true.
So,
listen, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being successful. Got no problem with that. If you're doing a radio show or you're doing a podcast and somebody says you're doing a great job, we're going to give you an award, I got no problem with that, okay? But when somebody obviously is trying to elevate their status in the community by giving these bogus awards to people, let me put it this way. if Jason Gowan ever got an award, I'd be really pissed. You know, but the chances are that the people that they're giving these awards to, if you look at the great scale of things as far as people who have accomplished stuff in the field of paranormal phenomenon, I don't know. I just think it's tilted. I think you're right. I think that there's cliques associated. And really, do you really need an award in this kind of field? I mean, what are we celebrating? What's the celebration about?
I was actually going to say, instead of, nominating me and making a big deal and some big dinner and an award, just send me a box of cookies and with a little note that says "good job." Hey, I'm happy there.
Yeah, see,
I get the spirit of it. I really do. I think the thing that bothers me is with awards come titles, and I best this, best that. I think that's what bothers me the most about it. But I do get the spirit about it. I would be absolutely honored if somebody handed me an award. I'd rather have money. So if anybody out there wants to send us money, you can.
Cookies. Cookies are always good. Tim, work with me here, man. Cookies. Cookies.
There are people out there who don't get mentioned. I've been talking about Roy and Denise a lot. I've been talking about my buddy Matt and some of them, and I see in the chat room every one of those people deserve an award. But the thing that makes me mad is, do you think that they'll ever see one?
Nope.
And who gets to determine who gets an award? Everybody in this field has worth and value, and they all contribute to the field. So you don't get to just hand somebody an award, damn, unless you're going to give us all one.
Well, and you look in the room, there's the ones, I think you've met Cynthia, but Cynthia and Kate and Mary, I mean, I've worked with all of them. They're all fantastic. They all work different ways, but they're all viable parts of this community. And
absolutely.
And, just because you have extra hair gel does not mean you're any better than these ladies.
So what means that they are of less worth, that they don't get an award, And so Trish and I have determined that we're just going to buy everybody breakfast. So you guys, come on over.
I love pancakes.
We're going to have a pancake breakfast.
Well, hey, and
I wish we could do that with people, because we have met so many people across the country who are enthusiastic and energetic and full of, what do you call it, zeal and enthusiasm with this stuff. And there's people so badly want to find a template. They want to find the right way to do this stuff. And so the easiest place is to go on television and just do what they do. Unfortunately, that it might work, it might not work for some people. But with ghost hunting, that's fine. But when you're dealing with families who have a severe problem in their home, you don't get to do that kind of stuff. So, we threw our little pebble in, and our hope is that, for people who listen to our show or have the archives, that maybe there's one little kernel of truth that rings true for them in there, and something that they can take back to their groups and go, hey, this really resonates with me. I'd like to explore this. Take that back and let's look at that stuff, and hopefully it works. But we got to stop disrespecting spirit in this field. We have to realize that if you are going to work in the field of spirit, you have to be in tune with spirit. And it's not always an EMF detector that's going to be the best tool. Maybe it's just sitting across a table and listening to somebody's story, because, they want so bad for somebody to believe them. They're not necessarily interested in a perfect photograph or the EVP that you got. They just want some validation. And when you sit across the table from them and allow them to talk, you're giving them healing. You're allowing them a chance to heal. That's what that is. So sometimes our ears and our eyes and just a handshake or a hug or something is so much better than the equipment that we bring to the table. That's what we want to reintroduce back into this. We want to have respect in the field. We want to get away from the parlor tricks and the charlatans that are in the field that are leading people kind of astray, so to speak, with these television shows. And let's get back to the work of helping people.
Absolutely.
Yep. And if you're going to concentrate on the research side, that doesn't make you any better or any different than somebody that helps families.
And if you're going to give awards, we'll have a big breakfast down in Florida, and we'll do it for best pancakes and best
Pancake
bacon.
mixer. I got one last question for you guys before we go. Where did you get that picture of us? Where is that from?
It's from the Adventure and Faith Banquet.
Is it? Are you serious?
Yeah, and can't you see all the orbs?
I look awesome in
Yeah.
That's why I put it up there. It had all the orbs in it.
And they're all different colors, so they must be real
No doubt.
orbs.
Yeah.
I wish my aura looked like that, but
Well, you know, and Tim, I think you'll agree, if it weren't for the love of the two women that we're both with, our paths in life would have been totally different.
yeah. Now, see, I gave you the opportunity at the beginning of the show to talk to Trish and to ask her the questions, and this could have been a really good show if you had done that.
No.
But you had to get me going on my rants and stuff, and so now you got an hour of me.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, I think Trish and I, our main job is usually just to sit back and reel you guys back in.
Well,
Yeah.
somebody's got to hold the leash.
It's kind of like herding cats.
Yeah.
You know.
She is so
I'm
good
not
at that
sure- I'm
because
not so
I
sure
do.
how
I
I
get
feel
really
about-
emotional about this stuff, and I go on these rants. Now an hour later, you know, she kind of keeps me calm and reminds me of what we're supposed to be doing on these things. You know,
Well, the one-
she is. I
one
couldn't
question-
find my socks in the morning without her.
The one question I have for both you guys, do you think that what you've experienced in the last decade or so, do you think that's expanded your spiritual journey? Do you think that's one reason why you guys are able to communicate so well with everybody, is because you have a much broader perspective that a lot of people have been privileged to get?
Okay, that's a good question, so I'm going to let Trish answer that one.
No, I can only speak for myself, and I know it absolutely has. I mean, I've experienced a lot of things that I before would not have, and probably would not have questioned. You know, but just some amazing stuff since Tim and I have been together, and since we've been in this field, and it's caused me to kind of shift what I look for. You know, I know that investigators are doing wonderful work and trying to help alleviate things for people, and also kind of trying to, you know, get evidence and things like that. For me, I've kind of shifted my question away from does it exist to precisely what is this stuff, and precisely where does it come from, and precisely where do we go. That's, you know, that my questions have kind of gotten a little different. And, you know, so it's totally changed my perspective.
Yeah. You know, that's a good point. And I think that's why I get so rattled and scream and holler like a maniac about evidence collection and EMFs and this and that. Because I've gotten past the idea of does it really exist and do I have to get a picture of it. I know it's real. So I guess that's probably why I'm a little jaded in that realm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think our shift is, you know, our kind of our focus is in a different place, maybe, but our caring is still for the people that are going through it. You know, screw it. They don't want to know what it is. They just want it gone.
Right.
You know?
Well, that one rule book that they wrote a couple of thousand years ago, that one rule book that a lot of people use.
Yeah.
In one of the deals in there about love thy neighbor, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of choice about who your neighbor is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and you know, and I think it's always, you know, get me going on that book 2,000 years ago, because there was a book written before that was the same type of thing.
And one before that.
Yeah, one before that. And, you know, how many messiahs are we going to have to go through before we get it? You know, that's my thought.
Yeah, I try to love my neighbor, but y'all don't know my neighbor, man. I don't know.
He steals stuff out of our garden.
He does. He come out. I walked out the backyard the other day. He's coming out of my tool shed with a water pump. I'm like, what are you doing? I was going to borrow this. Love my neighbor.
I thought Matt was your neighbor.
No, he told Matt he wasn't allowed to live next door to him.
Oh, that's right.
Well, now we've run you guys over your hour.
We
We
run the
own
place.
the show.
We own the place. We can go as long as we want to.
Yeah,
Oh, hell, all right, let me get some coffee. I'll be right back.
I was just saying, don't tell Tim that.
We're going to have prayer meeting tonight, boy.
We'll bring him some
Well,
old
let me
timey
ask you
religion.
guys some questions now. You've been doing this for a while. I haven't interviewed anybody in a little while. So, look, you guys are doing radio. What is your... What's your thing? What gets you excited about doing radio, and what are you trying to do? What's the goal?
Well, I guess it's the same as it was when we started out.
Mhm.
We tend to bring in not only bigger names, but a lot of small teams from all over the country, and it was to show other people not only different locations, different
Techniques.
equipment, techniques, etc., but to give someone a voice that wouldn't normally have one.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is we've made the focus, or attempted to make the focus of this network to be about getting information out. We want to be a place where people can come and go, well, you know, if I go in there and watch this, I'm going to at least come away with something.
And real
Mhm.
information,
Yeah.
not TV information.
Yeah, we try not to get too like you said, there's a fine line doing podcasts and radio, and like we're a video
Yeah.
network. We're stepping away from just audio. We've got video going, so
It's
people
awesome,
can
too, man. I'm looking at this, and it's pretty incredible.
people can see us. They can see our expressions. You know,
Yeah.
we can do guests on Skype, and then you get to see their expressions. Blah blah blah, and it's about bringing that interaction with people that they may not ever get a chance to see.
Yeah.
I interviewed, and I don't know whether you know this or not, but there's a group out there on Facebook called Xavier Paranormal. I'm going to plug this because Stephen Prosapio was on my
Prosapio.
I'm sorry, was on my show last night on Thursday nights, and he started a group as a joke. Well, not as a joke. It was a marketing ploy.
It's
He wrote
not
a book.
routine.
He wrote a book called The Ghost of Rosewood Asylum. And the paranormal group that's featured in the book is called Xavier Paranormal. Well, there's a group on Facebook for Xavier Paranormal. There's like 3,500 people that are part of this imaginary group.
Oh, wow.
But that started as a marketing ploy by an author, and like we were talking last night, it's amazing. You know, the reach that the social media can have is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to filter what you see. If you believe everything you see on Facebook, you know, hominis dominus Nabisco, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Because that means you're a sheeple. You're not thinking for yourself.
Yeah, the electronic media here, medium. I first joined the internet long before it became all you could eat internet. You know, I was on CompuServe or something. It was like 99 cents a minute, and you really had to know what you were doing back in those days. I would record my shows, pre-record my shows, and get them ready to go. Dial up on my 28.8 modem, you know, hook into CompuServe, get out there and download my show and get off and hope that it didn't cost me $4. You know, it was pretty ridiculous back then. Now we're so used to this just saturation of information and stuff that's out there now. It's really fascinating, and I think that there's a place for everybody in this. You know, I rant and rave and I get all passionate about this stuff, but the truth is that there's room for everybody.
Yeah.
And there's you know, the field when it comes to exploration and investigation and all that is wide open as to the things that you can do. I know people that are out there now that are working on some theories that are so far out. I mean, it goes way past even the remote possibility that what we're seeing is entities of human spirit that live from another place. They're getting into some pretty far out stuff, and it's valid phenomenon or it's valid theory at this point. So I'm really excited about where we're moving.
I think I actually talked to you about one or two of my theories, Tim.
Uh-huh.
One about residual haunts.
Sure.
About how I don't think they're residual.
Mm-hmm.
That they're actually, what is it?
Well,
Groundhog Day, they're
Yeah.
replaying it, trying to alter what had happened.
Well, my only thing that I ever add to that is it's like we've all had parts and times in our life where you got up at almost the same time, you ate breakfast at almost the same time, you went to work at almost the It's possible if you're a living person for that to happen. Then if you don't know you're dead and you're just experiencing on a different frequency or a different plane,
Yeah.
why? That's why I don't believe, because if you had residual energy, then that means every burp, fart, belch that ever happened inside of a house would be imprinted somehow on the walls. That would make EVPs ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you go into a 200-year-old commercial type building, whether it was a lot of places it was a hospital, then it was an orphanage,
Right.
then it was, the secretary's building and a girls' school. If that retained everybody's energy who was ever in there, you wouldn't be able to walk in the door.
And wouldn't it glow in the dark?
Sure.
And
What?
wouldn't it glow in the dark?
Quit.
But here's
Now,
the thing.
why
Let's
would
think
you
about how a
only
tape
see
recorder
one?
works. You have an electronic current, and you have a piece of iron oxide that's imprinted on tape. This iron oxide, and that's what tape is. Cassette tape is nothing more than rust. It's iron oxide attached to plastic. And it runs past this head inside our tape recorder, and it records an imprint. Now we can play it back, okay? So let's think about the structure of a building, how it has materials in it very similar, and perhaps if under the right circumstances with an electrical charge or energy charge, it has the ability to absorb an imprint just like a tape head. Maybe that can happen. So that's one theory. Now let's get real far out. Let's say that time is the distance measured between point A and point B. Well, what if we could take A and B and let's look at time kind of like a shoestring where it's fluid and elastic. And what if we could take the two ends and lift them up in kind of like a U shape, and that time can kind of, 2 points in time can come together and merge in the same place? Wouldn't that be far out? And couldn't that explain why we see these old period people sometimes? Maybe time is flexible and it can bend back on itself and come together. So the theories are endless and they're fascinating. And you know what? We're never going to understand it. We're not going to get it. We're not supposed to. Life is this fascinating game of a road that unravels before you, and you take the left or the right fork and you hope you get it right. But what I can do and what I found that is my truth is that from my experience, I learned some lessons, and maybe I can pass them along. And I don't get the big picture. I don't know why I was haunted and you weren't. I don't know why, I had this crappy life and Trish was on the opposite end of the spectrum. She was blessed to have maybe some entities and some visits that came to her house too, and I know this to be real, but they weren't the bad guys. They weren't the evil side of things. Maybe the positive energy that was in her home attracted like positive energy to her. There was a lot of negative energy in my home, and it seems like this stuff, Barry Taff called it inductive coupling, that like energies will seek each other out and attract to them just like magnets do. And that if you have a chaotic, dysfunctional lifestyle creating a dark energy in your home, think about a glass full of water and dipping dye into it. This is an example that I use at some of my conferences.
Food coloring.
If this glass is my little bodysuit, and inside it, the water is my spirit or my energy or my aura. Every time somebody tells me, you're an idiot, like Dad used to do, that's a drop of that food dye, and it starts to darken my spirit. You can't do this. You can't accomplish things in life. What's wrong with you? Those are little drops of that dark black ink into my spirit. Well, it's negative energy, and sooner or later, according to the theory of inductive coupling, like negative energy will come along just like a parasite and attach itself to that source, and it will feed on it. And this kind of makes sense. Here's the theory. Why do you hear the bangings on the walls? Because it creates fear, and it creates more negative energy in the home. It ramps up the bad energy and the frightened energy that's in the home. And normal hauntings, you hear about human spirit hauntings, while they may be startling and they may be frightening, they're not intended to be. With violent hauntings, it's always a fear-based scenario going on. A banging, a scratching, scary voices, screams, those types of things. It's designed to cause fear, to ramp up that negative energy. So I think that theory is really valid, because you have some people that just live blessed lives, and they always seem to have the golden spoon. You've heard of angel guides, angel spirit guides. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's just on the opposite end of the spectrum. So these are things that fascinate me when it comes to this stuff. And I may be just as bat poop crazy as the next guy, but it's the truth. It rings true for me. And we've been real blessed to kind of put that information out there and see if it rings true for others.
Yeah, and that's what, like I said, that's what we've been trying to do here is just get the good word out and get people a perspective that that can help them. At least give them the food for thought. We can't make them eat it, but at least put it on the plate and put it in front of them.
Yeah. So I would challenge these producers of some of these television shows that are out there, that as a paranormal community, guess what? We're kind of getting tired of the flash in the pan, run up and down and act like Three Stooges paranormal shows that are out there. If you want to entertain us and if you want to get us interested in your shows, let's talk more about this stuff. You're starting to see it in some of these ones that are like My Ghost Story or whatever they're called, Paranormal Witness, some of them. They're getting away from spotlighting the investigators, and they're starting to focus on the phenomenon. They're giving people a chance to tell their stories. From that, we may get information. We may get a database to work with. But I hope some of these producers out there will start to look at the potential of, can you imagine a camera crew following me and Trish around and dealing with a family that is going through this stuff? To me, that's way more fascinating than watching some guy run up and down locked in a prison someplace. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old.
No, absolutely. And that's kind of what TAPS did. I mean, you'd go 5, 6, 7 weeks, and they got absolutely nothing. Yeah. At least it was honest. Yeah, true.
Here's one that I put out there for years. I've been begging producers to do it, but nobody will touch it. And and after I explain it, you'll find out why. It's called Paranormal Polygraph. We get all of these people, the Travis Waltons, me, for instance, and my story. I would jump and volunteer to be the first one to do it. And you give them the chance, like on this show Paranormal Witness, you give them a chance to tell their story. And they do the dramatic recreations and all of that stuff. And then after that, now that person has to take a polygraph, and they have to answer 5 questions that the audience sends in. Okay? Now, how many people that are out there on these television shows do you think would be willing to do that?
None.
So that's a show that I've always wanted to go. Let's take these people and put their money where their mouth is. Who's the frauds? Who's the charlatans? And who's the real deal? Now put them out there and put them on a polygraph. Now here's the thing. People always say, anybody can pass a polygraph test if they try hard enough.
Not true.
Yeah. Tell that to the guys that are on Maury Povich in the mornings with that My Baby Daddy stuff, and they do the polygraph test. Yeah. They're not passing it too well.
Well, wait a minute. So. Weren't you coming out with a new show? Something about paranormal Amish mafia. Moonshiners.
Yeah.
You know what, Tim? I have
Amish mafia, my baby mama.
I have the most brilliant ghost hunting show idea, but nobody will ever do it, and I'll tell you why. I have an idea. When I want to, I can grow a very full beard very quickly.
Okay.
I'm thinking
tomorrow.
Tomorrow it'll be like halfway down. I'll be like Santa Claus by Friday. But here's the deal. I thought about myself, Scott Grunwald, who also is a co-fur of the facial hair.
I love Scott.
Johnny Hauser. Those will be the 3 to start with because they're the three furriest that I know. But I'm thinking we should do a ghost dynasty.
There you go. Y'all gonna live in a mobile home?
Well, and they'll make ghost calls.
Yeah, and everybody can be ghosty, ghosty, ghosty.
That's great. I'm going to do one called Bering Sea Ghost. How about that one? I love that Bering Sea Gold show. We've been watching that. Oh, my God. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Isn't it hard to get them in that pan, though?
That's great.
Yeah, but that's that. Once again, and I have to give. People keep watching these shows. That's why they keep making them.
Yep.
Don't watch them. Don't watch them, folks. That's the best thing I can tell you.
I only watch repeats just so I can scream at the TV and get my frustrations out. Sorry,
that's the only reason I watch.
But I admit it.
I did that for a while. I watched Jason and Grant for, here's the thing. When I first went and talked at Penn State University, Jason and Grant were the people that were teaching, and this was UNIFCON. This was Ryan Buell's big conference that he did up there every year. And he brought in George Lutz and Lou Gentili and had all these big names and the Warrens and all these people. Jason and Grant hadn't had a show yet, but they were teaching the daytime classes, the Ghost 101 classes, that everybody goes to. And I was really impressed with them, and they did a good job with that. And back then, well, here's the thing, and nobody in their right mind used an EMF detector because we knew what it did. And that it wasn't valid. But when that show came out, the reason people use EMF detectors was because the show needed a visual tool that the camera could focus on. So all of a sudden, they pulled out these EMF detectors, and when it blinked, the camera could see, obviously, that there was a ghost in the room or a demon or whatever.
Isn't it Lloyd Auerbach's fault? Didn't he take a tri-field meter on like a 2020 show that talked about the Manson houses, the Manson killings, and it showed him with that. So we can blame Lloyd for that.
That wasn't Lloyd.
Well, I mean, it goes back further than that. There were guys way back using geomagnetometers and Geiger counters and all kinds of stuff. They're trying to find something that would prove that during times of phenomenon that they could find a correlation in data. Now, if this stuff is electrical energy, maybe we can measure it on an EMF. Problem with that is, and this is why I discount EMF. I can take an EMF detector and I can go inside the most haunted house in America, Mansfield, Amity, you name it, anywhere, and there could be ghosts jumping all on my face. Okay? What's the EMF detector going to do? It's going to blink a couple of times, but you're not going to know why. So, now let's take the same EMF detector. Let's walk out to the middle of I-95 out here, or take it out on a boat in the middle of the ocean, or anywhere in a place that's not necessarily considered haunted. What's it going to do? It's going to blink a couple of times, and you're not going to know why. So what's the validity of it? Does it really make a difference? It's inconclusive is the problem, so we got to throw it out. And it's the same thing with imagery, with EVPs. I know EVPs are real. I know there's a correlation of them. We've all done them. We've gotten the results. We've been amazed by them. They're inconclusive because we can't prove the source. Could it be a radio transmission? Could be. Could it be thought transfer? Could be. Could it be an old tape? It could be, with an imprint from the last time you recorded something. Who knows? That's the problem with this stuff. We're never going to be able to really get that conclusive evidence. We've been trying for 150 years. So what are we going to accomplish tomorrow that's going to be different? That's the frustrating part of it for me when it comes to evidence collection.
Yeah, I mean, there's also. There's some things that they're being tested now, particularly David Roundtree and some of the work that he's doing.
Sure.
But he's like you mentioned earlier, he's talking about wormholes and alternate planes of existence and string theory, and I mean it gets deep real quick.
And quite frankly, it's all fine and good, but there are some of us who work off a totally different textbook, and when I hear wormhole, my eyes glaze over, and it's sort of like NyQuil,
because we can talk about it as theories, and it's fun. Oh my gosh, I love going there. You remember the old crazy days? Because you're a Bigfoot guy. You remember the old crazy days when is Bigfoot an actual humanoid, hominoid species, or could it be a mystical being from a parallel dimension?
Yes.
And people were throwing that out there. You remember that? Could it be an alien because Sasquatch was seen in the presence of UFOs and black helicopters? Remember all that junk? So there's always going to be crazy theories out there.
Well, what I'm saying is, Eric can sit here and he and David Roundtree can have a wonderful conversation, have an absolute blast together, and, be thrilled at the end. Me, it has nothing to do with David. It has to do with where my interests lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the goal. That's why I say there's room for everybody in this stuff. I'm not a big fan of that stuff. There are other people who just eat it up. And for them, when that EMF detector blinks, it's a ghost, damn it. There are people who are still out there who... I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I know an investigator who is on a television show, who is a prominent, well-known, one of the top paranormal investigators of our generation, who goes to conferences and he does his show and he gives a slide presentation and it's awesome. And then afterwards, if you pay the right amount of money, you can go on his overnight ghost tour of the college that he is at. He will go along and he'll find the dustiest place in that building. And he'll go up right to that dusty old maintenance table with the wrenches on it, and he'll slam his hand down on the desk, and he'll go, right here. This is the spot. Take your pictures right here, and I bet you get something. I feel an energy here. Okay? People start flashing. Because he slammed his hand down on that dusty old desk, guess what they're going to get in their photographs? Tons of orbs. And then when they look at him and they go, oh my gosh, look at this on my digital camera. Hey, I think you got something there. You better blow that up on the computer. Guess what? Now they have orb photographs, and they're absolutely convinced that those are ghosts. Is it right to do to them? No. Does he fulfill a need? Probably. But to me, it's BS, but there's still people out there who think that those orbs are absolute proof that there's a ghost in that room.
But, who was it? I guess it was David Roundtree the other day who was saying, at events, the investigations afterwards aren't really investigations. They're ghost hunts. It's people who want that thrill. So, is it right what, slapping the table? No. But
no, it's not. But for $50, you damn sure better produce something on that camera. Right. Or you're going to have a bunch of mad people.
Right, but what I'm saying is he giving them what they want? Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's kind of like when you get into that realm of call up the psychic on the 1-800 hotline, and for 99 cents a minute, she'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Is it real? Probably not. Is it right? Well, you're the one that called them, so you get what you asked for.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, as much as I hate to do this, I do have to be able to fit this on YouTube.
Oh, boy.
So we're going to have to kind of cut this off because about an hour and a half is about all my YouTube account will handle. We want you guys back.
Well, you got to make me a promise. Next time you invite us, just invite Trish.
No.
Because I fill up all the time.
Okay,
I'm ridiculous with it. Trish is so awesome when you talk to her about spirit and about kids and what she does, and it's awesome. So,
and I prefer to hear him. So
I will book you separately.
Yeah.
She makes me look ridiculous when it comes to doing talks, and she so rings true to people. So promise me you'll interview her.
I will book her on a show, and then I will book you on the same show, but not at the same time and not real close together.
Yeah, you gotta. I'm sorry. I apologize for not even letting her get some words in.
No, I loved it.
Trish is adorable. Don't you be meeting to her. You just give
she
her
is. She's cute. And she was talking the other day, about all the. I so appreciate. She does the laundry. She does the bills. She does the cooking, the cleaning, all of this stuff, and I stand around,
All right.
TV stuff.
Enough. They have to end their show.
Yeah, but she does all of that stuff, and I looked at her, I said, you know what, you never have to worry about ever getting divorced from me, boy. Because she has attached me out.
Aw,
and I'll end it with that. Thank you, guys.
And we thank you guys for coming on. We truly do.
We'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. I have no clues on next week.
Oh, well, and I have absolutely no clue who's on Pema TV either.
But
she can go look. I do want to remind everybody that tonight, here in about 2.5 hours, you can log in for Alchemical Artisans Hour, one of our new shows.
I don't know who it is.
Rita Soul Healer.
Oh, Rita Louise.
Rita Louise.
From the Paranormal Unity Fest. That's who that is.
Yeah. So don't miss that, folks.
Absolutely not. And don't forget, 3 weeks before the Lower Catskills Paracon, 1 more week of the package specials. If you want to save some money, get your discount packages. It saves you all kinds of money, I promise. I made the prices. With that, say good night.
Good night.
And moving forward, and now life is so much more exciting. Trish is doing incredible stuff with books and ministry work, and I'm getting involved in the church, and I'm active with the Coast Guard Auxiliary now, and I do radio stuff and working, and it's just coming back to a place of center and being normal, it's not that I don't. Here's the thing. There are a lot of people who get involved in the paranormal, and they get on television shows, and they strive to be famous and make a name for themselves in the paranormal. And that's fine. But the real people who are doing so much incredible work and doing counseling with families, most people don't even know that they exist. They work quietly behind the scenes. People like Carmen Reed, people like Stephen LaChance, the names could go on and on.
Bill Bean.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are just quietly working in the background, and they're working with families who are scared to live in their houses. Roy and Denise is a perfect example of that. They're in the chat room, I believe, right now. They sacrifice so much and give so much of themselves to be able to do this. Oh my gosh, it's incredible. Yet you don't get to hear of those people. And Trish and I still are involved in this. We still have conversations daily, almost it seems like daily, with people who, threatening to kill themselves, commit suicide because they're in a dark place. Not necessarily always because of paranormal stuff, but it's because they put themselves in a corner and they're so out of balance. We feel that we have developed a pretty good system of empowerment and of putting little tools back into the toolkit for people to use. Simple reminders of you just got to remember to laugh once in a while. You got to remember to communicate with family. Journaling is a huge part of it. All of these little positive affirmations and reinforcements in life that when you get to a dark place, you kind of forget those things. So that's what jazzes me up now. I spent a long time giving recognition to people with a radio show, and that was all good, but it was for the sake of entertainment. Now I'm really trying to focus and concentrate on getting down into the meat of the subject, and I'm really excited about the fact that Trish is stepping up and doing some amazing things in that field. So there's the dumb answer. Now you can ask Trish what she's doing.
That was not a dumb answer. They wanted to know why you had stepped back. That was a perfect answer.
Okay.
Don't forget, go to penevents.webs.com for your tickets and
booths, investigator rooms, Tracy Rays, gallery readings, all your information for the Lower Catskills Paracon. And yes, I'm going Slim Shady on you. May 3rd and 4th, we've got 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and we will be in Napanock, New York at the Shanley Hotel. Get your tickets now. The discount packages are only good for 1 more week, so if you want to Save some money. Grab them now.
But we're so excited about this. I mean, because we haven't talked to these guys, and it's been about a year.
It's been a little over a year.
Or a little over a year.
Because he was actually on our 1 year anniversary.
That's correct. So it's been a little more than a year. And that's our fault. We should have searched them out sooner, I think.
Well, some of you boys were playing.
Well, it's a competition thing.
We're playing. Let's see who can spend more time in the hospital.
Well,
so,
you know, there is that. But tonight we are joined by the premier couple of the paranormal. We are joined tonight by
the lovely Trisha and the man that doesn't listen to her, Tim.
Say, premier couple, you must be talking about the Kling brothers. What's going on here?
Ow! And
How you guys doing?
Doing great. And just to say this, there's nothing wrong with that.
Man, I love you. Me and you are in the Stint Club for life.
That's what we had. Plavix all the way, brother.
I'm saying I live on that. And Metro, what's that stuff I take?
Metoprolol
or something. I don't know. Dopamine, something. Methadone.
Isn't that weird?
Methadone.
Isn't that?
Oh, that's for my other problem. Yeah.
Hey Tim, isn't that the way it is though? When we were in school, they gave us dinosaur names that we couldn't pronounce, and when we get a certain age, they give us medicine that we can't pronounce, and they all look the same.
Yeah, acetaminophen. What the hell is that? Oh, aspirin. Okay.
Yeah, some Velasa aspirin.
Yeah, it's been a while. We haven't talked to you guys. How you been?
I'm doing surprisingly well.
And I'm not bad either.
Better from what I saw in the pictures on Facebook.
Have you guys now? You guys are still in Florida, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're living in West Palm here, and it's been getting hot, bro.
Yeah, it hit 80 here today, and we're in East Texas, so.
Yeah, but it was 40 yesterday.
That's true too.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's true too.
We had some.
shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight.
bizarre freak storm come through. So it was like 88, and then by afternoon it was down to 38.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That big storm that dumped all that snow on Denver, that's what, as it blew across the Midwest, we caught the very bottom tail end of it. And she's not kidding. You could literally look at a weather map, and where we were at was 75 or 80 degrees. On the other side of that storm front was 30.
Well, here it's kind of similar. It's like 87, and then we get a cold snap, and it's like 86, and then it's 87 again. So, yeah, it's pretty hot down here, man.
Yeah, and it's terrible with the humidity there, too, right?
Yeah, it was smoke. It rained today for like 15 minutes. That's how it works in Florida. You get a quick cloud runs over and it rains. And I was standing in a parking lot watching the steam come up off of the asphalt today. I kid you not. So, yeah, it's real humid. It's like walking around with a wet towel stuck in your face all day.
Very true.
Yeah. Now you guys, Tim, I want to ask you this, and then I'm gonna.
You better start by asking Trish. If you want a smart conversation,
no.
If you want something smart, you better ask her.
No.
Well, I'm trying to get all our dumb stuff out of the way first before the girls start conversing.
Go ahead.
I know. About a year and a half ago. I mean, you stepped away from a lot of stuff having to do with internet broadcasting and basically from the paranormal. And I was just curious. If you could tell us why. Did you just get burnt out? Was it just too much talking about it all the time, or?
I don't think so. You talked about Stephen LaChance. He made a real profound statement on a DVD that we did for Warner Brothers. His boy Elliot came to him and said, you live so long in the darkness and chasing demons and stuff, maybe it's time to look for angels now. That's it. I got married not too long ago. You should see my wife. She's pretty hot. And, you gotta grow up and move on after a while. And, this thing has plagued me and my family for 40 years, something like that, and the thing is, recognition is huge when it comes to this stuff. And I had to make a conscious choice not to give this stuff recognition, not to live in the darkness. I still struggle with that. This stuff happened to me for a reason, and it happened because I lived with a lot of dysfunction in my life. I had a lot of off-center stuff going on, out-of-balance kind of lifestyle, and I still struggle with trying to stay centered.
This is Brother Mine. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarm setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set. Let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys!
And welcome everybody to Pema TV.
Welcome to Friday, April 12th, 2013 already.
and I believe it's Jason is the one that's all disappointed because it's Friday the 12th.
Yeah, well, that happens.
It does,
But,
mathematically.
bless his heart, Richard Booker, who was one of the original Jasons, passed away last week. So,
Yeah, man. Rest in peace.
Godspeed.
Rest in peace to him. Rest in peace to Mr. Jonathan Winters, a comedy icon. His sarcasm influenced more than one generation in America, and that's a proven fact.
Me.
Real quick, but because we're really excited, we're kind of chomping at the old bit to get to our guest tonight. But let me.
Should I pull a Slim Shady on you?
No, don't go on limb on me. That's scary.
I did it before. I'll do it
Really
again.
it is. All right, here we go.